Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi.
And welcome. See, do we have video yet? There we go. Welcome to the 6 key metrics for managing sales as efficiently as production. So you all got the note that the evaluation is a little bit different this year. The other housekeeping note is that anything you hear on stage, you take at your own risk. Evidently, NAHB is not liable for anything I say today. So listen and implement at your own peril. My name is Rick Storley. I own a company called New Home Sales Coach. And I help builders create sustainable sales for a greater purpose. So I'm thrilled to be back again. I'm based out of Minneapolis, and this is my probably 6th or 7th time speaking here at the International Builder Show. And I so appreciate you investing your time here today when you have a multitude of other options. So imagine you're flying over the Atlantic Ocean. About halfway across, the captain interrupts. It says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have some bad news and I have some good news. The bad news is the gauges aren't working. We are hopelessly lost. Not sure what direction we're going. Oh, and by the way, I have no idea how much fuel we have. The good news is we're making great time." So how many of you feel like that sometimes in your business? So you're not sure where you're at, you're not sure where you're going, and you're not sure if you're going the right direction. So the idea today that we're going to go through is data, and what is the value of data. Now what I find is that if you have a company that is stagnated or is not growing, there's usually 6 reasons why that isn't happening. First of all, a lot of you may rely on your local market. You're only as good as your local market. That is, the market's up, you're doing well. The market's down, you're not doing so well. So it's this never-ending roller coaster ride. Bad or no land opportunities. Maybe you're in the wrong spot, invest in the wrong spot, don't have access to the good stuff. Maybe the market changed and you didn't. So now you've got the wrong offering out there. Perhaps you're too diversified, meaning that you're trying to be all things to all people. Maybe it's toxic culture. No core values, no core purpose. Perhaps there's an employee that's a cancer of an organization. In sales management, we call that the king bee or queen bee syndrome. It's a salesperson that thinks that they are bigger than everybody else, and they end up destroying the company from within. But we find out the biggest reason that a lot of builders get stagnant and they can't grow is no data. They do not have access to good data. So marketing without data is like driving with your eyes closed. It's like flying that plane blindfolded, being out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, not knowing which direction you're going, but you're just going. Anybody read this book, Traction? A few of you have, okay. Written by Gino Wickman, and he has an entire chapter devoted to data. And he says there's 8 benefits of good data. 7 of which we're going to talk about here today that fit this program really, really well. Number 1 is data cuts through murky, subjective communication. So how does we need more sales versus we need 2 more sales to hit budget this month? So data creates accountability. Expectations are clear, and nothing is more clear than a number. Data creates clarity and commitment. Clear expectations, yet commitments. You need commitments from all of your employees, all of your vendors, all of your salespeople. Data creates competition. Natural competition between salespeople can be a very good thing. Look, pressure helps. Data produces results. So watch numbers get focused and subsequent improvement, or issues get identified. Data creates teamwork. Very, very important to get teamwork. The team's going to work together to solve problems and support one another. And finally, it helps solve problems faster. So numbers identify issues and allow you to solve problems right away. Instead of being reactive about it, you're being proactive about it. So the key question here is, how do you measure? Because you're probably thinking about 100 things, and what we want to break it down to is what are those 6 things that are really key to running your business, not only in 2020, but beyond. So what gets measured gets done. The EOS model, If you've read the book Traction, you're familiar with what it is. Anybody running EOS right now? Okay, quite a few of you, that's awesome. Anybody been more than a year into implementation? Fantastic, okay, so we're going to talk a lot about EOS. The data set that I put together here will fit right into your level 10 meetings. For those of you not familiar with EOS, it stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And again, going back to the book Traction, Gino Wickman came up with this idea in 2004. And what he figured out was, if you break a company into 6 key components, you can manage and strengthen that company and take it from good to great. So the 6 components are people, vision, data, process, traction, and issues. So we're going to simplify things. So today we're going to focus a little bit on process, and we're going to focus a lot of it on data. So if you're running an EOS system, you have what's called a level 10 meeting every week. It's your leadership meeting. And at that meeting, there's a section where you go through your data. It's recommended you have between 5 to 15 core numbers to run your business. I'm going to give you 6 numbers today that I would recommend that you use for your marketing and your sales. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to create the scorecard, those 6 numbers. The second thing we're going to do is I'm going to give you the measurables. Now, one note on measurables. How many custom builders in the room? Okay, let's get quite a few custom builders, all right. How about semi-custom or production? Okay, a lot of you guys, all right. And how about design build modelers? Okay, there's a few of you everything as well. So what I want to tell you is this. There's a lot of variances in the data between the 3 building types. So what I've done is I've averaged it together for your measurables just to give you a going average. However, we have a spreadsheet and actually measurables based on if you're custom versus semi-custom or production or design build modeling. So if you want to just drop your card afterwards, I will email you a link to the PDF, and I'm also going to have a video tutorial put together for you that explains the variances, why some businesses are varied from others. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So these are the 6 areas that we're going to use to create your scorecard. So area number 1 is your website. Pretty simple. We're starting at the top of the funnel, your website. Number 2, we're going to get into lead conversions, and we're going to look at online and offline lead conversions. 3, your sales funnel. So for those of you that are running model homes, if you've worked model homes before, there's that term out there called a be back, right? Someone comes in Friday and they says, I'll be back. And they come back Saturday and they're like, yes, right? We got a live one. So your sales funnel is, think of your be-backs online. People that are coming back and forth to your website. We'll talk a lot more about that here. Prospect conversions. I define a prospect conversion as a meaningful 2-way conversation. A lead is an opportunity. A prospect conversion normally happens after you've had your first sit-down meeting. So whether it's at your office or your model home. But that's we're gonna for today's purposes, we're gonna define as a prospect conversion. Buyer conversions, which you all are using right now. That's how we typically measure our success or lack thereof. And then finally, potential sales volume and milestones. This might be a new one for you all, so we're going to spend a little bit more time here. This is where we're also going to get into process. Very important that we understand what our sales process is, and we begin with the end in mind. All right, so the first 2 parts of your scorecard are marketing. So again, for those of you running EOS, your weekly numbers, we're going to look at marketing. 2 of these numbers will be marketing. 4 of them will be for sales. In the bowl, at the top, where it says new users from target monthly states, that is going to be your measurable. The numbers below it are just additional information that I recommend you look at for whoever is tasked or assigned with gathering this information. So as an example here, when I say new users from target market states, I found 2 issues with just using Google Analytics the way it's set up. One is, if you're just tracking website visitors and there's no filters on it, you can be getting people from outside the country. You can get your spam bots mixed in there, and what it'll do is it will massively mess up your numbers. So case in point, we had a remodeling client in Austin, design build remodeler, 2,000 visitors a month to his website, like off the charts good. However, the rest of the numbers absolutely stunk. We put a filter on it and figured how many of those 2,000 were coming from Texas, and then there's about 300 a month coming from Texas. He was just getting bombarded by garbage traffic. So put a filter on for the states that your target market comes from, And that filter should be state or states. So if you're operating in Texas and most of your buyers are coming from Texas, use Texas. If you're in Florida and you have buyers coming from all the way up and down the East Coast, use those states. Second reason we want to filter by states is that you may have a builder that has a similar name to you or the same name in a different state. And there's people coming to your site that are screwing up your data as well. So filter by state. So I use the number here, 1,272. That is on average between remodeling, custom builders, and semi-custom home builders, the amount of new visitors. Now, notice the word new visitors. This is not repeat visitors. This is new IP addresses on your site each and every month. So we're going to look at new data here. Your bounce rate, 54%. Everybody know what bounce rate is? Okay, enter and exit on the same page. Not necessarily a bad thing. Especially if you're running pay-per-click campaigns and using landing pages. But the bounce rate of roughly 54% is pretty much industry normal. If you are running pay-per-click and you are using landing pages, it is going to be higher than that. So I recommend you take and move that data out of your overall your organic. Pages per session, 3.6, and then session duration, 2 minutes and 42 seconds. The goal for us is always to get to 3 minutes. Now, why is it better to be on the site longer? Anybody know? Yeah, so again, going back to that model home analogy. You work in that model home, car drives up, goes real slow past, looks out, and then keeps going. That's a bounce. They walk into your foyer, look around and say, no thank you. Okay, so they've looked at one page. Once somebody walks through the house and looks at every room and spends 30 to 60 minutes in the home, I get an opportunity to really engage them. So again, using that analogy for your website, 3 minutes is what we, or more, is what we look at as for a full engagement into your website. Now, for those of you running pay-per-click campaigns, 2019 went back and looked at averages, 60 cents to about $1.80 for spending per click. The low end, 60 cents, would be more of a geo-targeting, geo-fencing. The high end would be more like the Google pay-per-click, Facebook, and Instagram, or somewhere in between. So measurable number 1. Moving on to measurable number 2. We're still on marketing. Okay, now we're looking at new leads. So the question is, how many new leads should you be bringing in each and every month? Well, the averages we can give you is about 64. 35 of those were offline. And they came in outside of your website, live chat, social media, that sort of thing. 29 were online. So when we compare that against our traffic, we're capturing about 2.72% on average. The lower your traffic, the lower your website new visitors numbers, typically that number is higher, but on average about 2.72%. Again, I love the number 3. That would be ideal for me if I could get to that. Pay-per-click campaigns typically convert a lot lower than that. This is really organic traffic. So what does that mean? For every 44 visitors that come to your website, you should have a lead. Every 44 visitors come to the website, you get a lead. On average, you should be putting about 2 leads a day each month into your system for follow-up. 2 leads a month. It's split roughly 55-45 between website and offline. All right, now we're getting into sales measurables. We've got marketing, the 2 main marketing numbers there. Now we're going to get into sales. So I mentioned before about sales funnel engagement. We can take a minute here to just explain what this means. There's a quote out there, when there is no big, we grow. So we love it when we have a strong market, the phone's ringing, people are walking in the model home, we have good realtor traffic. However, I would contend that as you have a database, your database should be massaged frequently. And by that it means I am engaging it. So what we find is that if your database is 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, on average here, you have about 238 people that are entering your sales funnel each and every month. You're re-engaging these folks. So again, this is your be-back, coming back to your website. Now, of that, 86 are hot opportunities. I go back to the model home analogy again. A hot opportunity versus just a simple engagement. An engagement might be someone opened your email and clicked on a link. A hot opportunity is somebody that gets deep into your website. They're looking at your plans, they're looking at your locations. If you're a remodeler, they're looking at your project pages. They're checking out your available homes. They're getting deep into your website. So as you can see here, on average, there's 86 hot opportunities that are re-engaging each and every month. So who am I going to target my sales team to follow up with? It's those 86 hot opportunities. And of course, if I'm tracking them, I can see what I'm interested in and I can follow up with relevant, appropriate information. Sales funnel engagement 238. One thing I would mention too with sales funnel engagement is that you have to engage people multiple different ways. So SMS messaging is first and foremost for getting new leads engaged. The first 30 days are the most critical. We see more conversions happen in the first 30 days than we do in the rest of it. So the first 30 days, be active with your SMS follow-up, be active with your email follow-up. Yes, do touch them often. I recommend about once every 3 days. If you get past 30 days, now we're looking at recapturing, trying to get them back. And yes, do leads come in after years? Absolutely. But the first 30 days is most critical. All right, let's look at scorecard measurable number 4. So how many prospects should I have each and every month? Well, the answer, according to this data from this group of builders and remodelers, is 10. So what does that mean? If I look at a prospect conversion as a sit-down meeting, face-to-face meeting, I should have roughly 2.5 a week. Completed sit-down meetings are about 10 per month. Obviously, your business sizes, that's going to ebb and flow, but on average here, that's what we're doing. So what that means is, for every 6.5 leads I get 1 prospect. So for every 6.5 leads, 1's going to convert into a prospect. Now, obviously, the lead source is going to vary a lot on that. A realtor lead, a referral lead is going to convert a heck of a lot better than, say, a sign call or perhaps a web lead. How long does it take? About 91 days on average to convert that lead to a prospect for online. And your online should make up about a third, roughly 36% of your lead conversions. So you look at it this way, and by the way, those of you that are tracking sales on your lead sources, who's tracking 36% or better from online leads to buyers? Okay, a few of you out there. The vast majority, it looks like you're probably lower than that or you're not tracking properly. That is a number that can flip. Where we've got offline prospect conversions here at 64%, I've seen that flip as well. So the opportunities are there in both areas. It just depends on your business model. Now the interesting thing here is that an offline prospect tends to convert faster, about twice as fast, about 40 days. So your salespeople should know that if it's a model home walk-in, if it's a sign call, if it's a call to the office, that particular lead should convert a little bit faster. What you have to do with online leads is they need a little bit longer to incubate. In other words, you're trying to build value. That's where a lot of your automation comes in as far as your follow-up. Building value, educating them. Where are you located? What are your floor plans? Choosing a builder. What's important there? Educate them on finance, price versus cost. All very, very important things. And you're going to use multiple ways to educate them. So written word, videos, inviting them to specific events that you have for your business. All right, so sales measurable number 5. And this is the one that you all are already measuring. So what we find is with this group of builders is that they were producing about 3.4 buyer conversions per month. So the question is, how many prospects do you need? And again, what's a prospect? It's a completed sit-down, face-to-face, two-way conversation. How many prospects do you need to get that sale? The answer is about 3. It's about 3. So we're converting at about 33%. Now, anybody doing better than that? A few of you? Where are you getting at?
We're up around 42.
Yeah, okay.
46.
Yeah, if you're really clicking along, 50%. I found is probably about the best you can do. It's about one out of 2. If you think you're going to do better than that, you're fooling yourself. 50% is that magic number to shoot for. So in this case, the average was 33. Quality of prospect matters a lot. If you do not have a good qualifying program, as far as getting the needs analysis up front before you get to that sit-down meeting, that's going to really skew your numbers. So case in point, a client of ours was using an online concierge, and what she found out is that she's doing most of her qualifying via SMS. And she said, hey, what the situation is somebody's sitting at work in a bullpen. They don't want to use their work computer because Big Brother's watching their computer. They can't talk on the phone because of the bullpen, but they will sit there and text on their phone. And so she's doing almost all of her qualifying. But what was happening was when we got to that first meeting, new things were popping up that the OSC did not learn. So what we did is we just simply added a phone call. So she scheduled a phone call with the on-site salesperson before the meeting was there, so they could confirm information and they could go through the data that they had and make sure that they were properly prepared for the meeting. So very, very important, if you want that ratio to go down, you need to increase the quality of your prospects. The way you do that is through lead sources, having good quality leads, and also qualifying. Now, number of days, this is a tough one. I put on there 86 to 395. 86, for those of you semi-custom builders out there, that was the average amount of time from the first sit-down meeting to contract. 86 days. And to me, that seems too long. I'd like to have it shorter than that, but these mostly are pre-sold homes, and it's mostly a semi-custom play. Some productions worked in there. For those of you that are doing high-end custom homes, $1 million, $2 million plus stuff, that's the 395 days. You spend a ton of time in design. So really this number for you, this measurable, is going to be based on your business type. Very, very important you understand that. Once you identify how long it takes to convert that prospect to a buyer, you come up with an aging score. So what that means is that you're tracking how long that prospect has been in that stage. And if they have not converted by the time of your average amount of days, there's where the red light comes on. Because what happens then, of course, is the longer they sit and bake, the more likely they are to be lost. You've got to figure out why have they not converted. Is it a salesperson issue? Is it a prospect issue? Is it financing? What is it? Why haven't they converted? Now, for the last one, we get into measurable number 6. This is where we got to get into some of the process. So we're going to begin with the end in mind. The first thing you need to do, add in your action list as you walk out of here, if you haven't already done it, you need to chart your sales process, working backwards. So from contract signing forward, identify what are the primary engagements, or what we call milestones, that you need to complete with your customer, and work those backwards. Now next, as you see here, is we have this over here called probability. You know this as well as anybody. After each milestone is completed, you're going to assign it a probability score. So if you add all these together, it's 100%, right? And the last example here, the last milestone is signing the construction contract. So I create a probability score. So in this case, example here is, hey, I go through the qualification process. This is a description of what I do. Once I complete that, I have a 5% chance of completing that. That's what this builder assigned their probability score. Yours might be 1%, it might be 10%. This is based on historically what you see your prospects go through. And then lastly, over here is its customer type. So I need to progress that person forward. C, B, A. And as an example here again, the first sit-down meeting, you see that the customer goes from a C to a B. And so what we do then at that point is we trigger a lead to a prospect. We say that's a conversion. And so then we will stop any automated nurturing follow-up. The salesperson has it in control. The clock starts ticking. 86 days, we should have a contract on that person. And each week, we're looking at moving forward by completing milestones. So once you have this set up, this is your big picture, your sales process. We begin with the end in mind, start with your contract, work your way backwards. You should have between 4 and 6 steps. Next thing I do is I go to tasks. Now, why is this important? Well, for a couple of reasons. You want to grow your business, you have to be able to replicate and duplicate your sales at will. You have multiple salespeople, or you want to bring on salespeople, this is the infrastructure you have to build. So as you see here, as an example, this is what needs to be done before, during, and after the sales meeting. And the most important part about this is, ladies and gentlemen, is you can measure this. You can measure it. So you know if your salesperson is following this checklist or not following this checklist. So prior to 9/11, when you went on a plane, the cockpit door was open. And the pilots are in there doing what? They're going through their checklist. So these pilots had 20,000, 30,000 hours in the air. But every single time before they took that plane took off, they went through the checklist. Why? Because it created a certainty that they would get off the ground, and they land again safely. You want to create a certainty that you are going to make the sale. You have to be able to replicate and duplicate it at will. You have to have a checklist so you don't let human error get in the way. So that's what we call a milestone task. So the milestones are your sales process. Those are the things you would communicate to your prospective buyer. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I call it the next step close. This is what we're doing now. This is the next step, next step, next step, and then we get to contract sign. Easiest close on the planet, and I can document it, and I can give it to them. So at that initial sit-down meeting, I say, here's where we're at right now. This is where we're going. I even went so far as I would take my sheet and I would put blank dates in it, and I would schedule tentative appointments for our next 2 or 3 meetings. Everybody's so darn busy, it was hard to get them together. So the milestone task is what I'm doing, sometimes during the meeting, but more often before or after. So to make sure I'm making the most of that particular opportunity. Now this is your measurable right here for number 6, and this is the most important one probably that you're going to have for your entire meeting and for your business. The question is, what's the value of your database? In other words, if you took every lead prospect and everybody you have in your database right now, how would you answer the question, well, how much you got in the pipeline? Because again, remember, we want to know where we're going, and we want to know are we going the right direction, where we're at right now. So in this particular example here, this is a list of all the prospects, all A's and B's, for example. On this column here, I've got a budget. So I've gone and I've qualified every single one of them. They told me their budget. Some of them might have been financially qualified. Some of them might have been saying, hey, I don't see what I've got to spend. Now, if you look over here, it says potential. And all we're doing here is we're going back to this. And we're taking that probability and we're multiplying times the budget. So the deeper we get into the sales process, the higher the probability goes. And then we come up with a total. So down here we have a total budget of $14,410,000. We don't get them all. We never get them all, right? We're converting at roughly 33-50%. So we're looking at what is my real probability here. So this is telling me on average I've got 44% completed on my sales process, which gives me about $6.35 million. Now I can answer the question, this is what I've got in the pipeline. So now when you're looking at budgeting, do I have a ton more in the pipeline where I need to be looking at hiring additional trades? Do I need other employees? Am I short? Do I need to run a campaign and generate some more leads? Am I overpriced, underpriced? What's the issue? So this gives me a weekly number that I can say, this is what I have in the pipeline right now. And it's conservative, as you can see, it's 44% of our budget, because we know we're not going to get them all. So most important measurable right there. So let's just look at it here on the scorecard. So in this particular example, we have a potential sales volume that we would report back to the leadership team, about $6.35 million, and equating to about 44%. You have to determine where that lead to prospect switch goes. Yes, can you take and talk to leads, and can you qualify them, and can you put a budget to them? Yes. But when they are not ready, willing, and able, or even ready and willing, you're just sort of fooling yourself because you have no idea when they're going to come forward. Some people will tell you a year out and they'll go in 6 months. Some people will tell you they're 6 months out and they won't go at all. So these are prospects, ready, willing, or ready, willing, and able. You've had a face-to-face sit-down meeting with them or more, and this is your pipeline. This is answering the question. This is the value of my database right now. So in your case, if you're a $10 million, $15, $20 million builder, you know how much more you need to add to the pipeline in order to set your goals. Now, what are the other supporting numbers that I want to look at? I want to look at percent follow-up. New leads coming in each week, what percent are followed up with? You see that's 95%. The question is, well, Rick, why wouldn't it be 100%? Because trades fill out your forms, spammers come in. So 9.5 out of 10 leads we're following up with, the other ones we're deleting, getting out of the system. But now, the other thing I'm looking at now that I have measured my sales process, now that I've identified it, now what I do is I track it. And not only can I track it as a company, but I can track it by salesperson. So now, remember we talked about what's the value of data? I can create competitions to salespeople. Hey, how many milestone tasks did you create, or did you complete? How many milestones did you complete? If any of you that have a sales team and you try to run a sales like sales goals before you try to do a contest, inevitably the salespeople bicker that so-and-so has an easier project to sell, so therefore they're gonna win. So what I do here is I can reward and I can measure the things I need to do in order to make the sale. Certain areas are gonna be a tougher sale than others. So now I'm rewarding behavior, even if it doesn't lead to more sales in one area or another, but I'm rewarding behavior. Remember that behavior, I need to replicate it, duplicate it across the board for all of my salespeople. So it's that core measurement. So on average, 94 completed milestone tasks and 21 sales milestones. Once you start doing this for a while and you get going, then you'll be able to figure out what a salesperson should be producing for you as far as tasks and milestones each and every week. And I do recommend you track these numbers on a weekly basis. Again, if you're running EOS, you can go weekly or monthly. This is a good number to track weekly, especially with the projected sales volume. So why is data important? What I found is that every single builder that I've worked with has always had a dream of what they want to do outside of building a home. Yeah, they want to build a great business. And you got into the building business because you had an opportunity, you saw a different way, maybe you thought that you could do it better than somebody else you were working for, but you got into it for a reason. Once you're into that business for a while, though, and you establish yourself, then it's always like, well, there's something more that I want. A case in point, a client, long-term client of mine last week sold his business to his kids. He's out. He's been working on it for 10 plus years, but his goal was he wanted to sell the business. He's got 4 sons. They took it over. They bought it for him. He's out. He's got his money. He's in Florida. Other clients may want to set up a company that will take and operate on its own so they can travel. Maybe you're involved in an organization or some missionary work and you want to focus on that. Whatever it is, there's always something else. There's always something else as an entrepreneur. So if you want to get to that, if you have that idea as well, that dream of something more you want to do, you want to create your business where you want to sell it, you want to be sustainable on its own, you have to have a sustainable sales process. And that process is broken down into 3 things. So number 1, we just talked about, you have to have the ability to measure each part of your marketing and sales process using scorecard measurables. Exactly what we just talked about, those 6 numbers and those measurables, along with the supporting data below it. Must have. Number 2, we often have maximum value perception, creating sales velocity. So what does that mean, anyway, maximum value perception? It means simply that when your customers look at your offering, they feel that the money that they're in exchange for is equal to or worth less than what they're getting back from you. In other words, your home, your remodeling service is worth more than we're getting to you. If that value is not established, they're not going to buy, period. So they got to have maximum value perception. Now, how do you know if your offerings have maximum value perception? You know it from the data. You're tracking the data. And then number 3, you got good to great profit levels. And that allows you to focus on your core purpose. So the 2 questions I want you to walk away with today is that what are your core values? And what is your core purpose? And are those core values and core purpose clearly communicated to all of your employees, to your trades, your suppliers, and to your customers? Yeah, that's right. Customers love this as well. So what is it? What do you do besides just build or remodel for homes or develop? Back in the early 1980s, there was a father who had a real estate brokerage, and his son was graduating college, and he hired his son to be his general manager of his real estate brokerage. And so son came on and started managing. Well, at the same time, the father started buying land and developing land. Now, for those of you that lived through the late 70s or early 80s, how was the housing market? Yeah, remember the misery index? Yeah, not fun, right? Double-digit inflation, double-digit interest rates. It was a crazy time. So they had this land out there that they needed to sell lots on, so they said, we got to find some builders to buy these lots and build homes in here. So they went out looking for it, could not find it. So what did 2 entrepreneurs do? When you can't find something to do it, you figure out, well, we'll do it ourselves. So they started Mike Rigg Homes. This is a picture of Mike Rigg here. So Mike started out building and didn't know anything, but hey, they started weeding through it, grew the company, and then became a franchisee a few years later, Custom One Homes. And Custom One Homes grew again some more, and so they started to raise the level of home they were building, the caliber of home. And they also increased their sales volume by starting to build scattered lots. So in 2004, Mike hired me. I became a sales manager, and then in about 2006, when we started to see the next recession coming, Mike said, hey, you know what, I want to bring my sales in-house. He had to use with local real estate agents. I want to bring them in-house because I need to survive this recession. And so we started to do that. And about the same time, he became involved with this orphanage in Jamaica called Robin's Nest. And his wife, Jan, himself, started traveling to Robin's Nest on a pretty regular basis. He spent a lot of weeks there. Each year, they started to donate to it financially. They even went on the board of directors and became president of Robin's Nest. Well, then in about 2011, after a couple of years with fighting with Jamaica bureaucracy, they decided to adopt one of the kids at Robin's Nest, and his name is Jafar. And that's a picture of him right there. That's with Mike's wife Jan and two of his other children. And so in 2011, Jafar came to the United States, and he said, hey, you know what? I'm now an American citizen. I want an American name. So Jafar became Mark. And this is a picture of Mark last year. So they raised Mark as their son, and Mark last year committed to the Air Force Academy. And now Mark is serving our country because Mike and Jan had a greater purpose. And they used their home building company to do that. In 2017, I got a call. Got a call from Mike, and he said, hey Rick, I got bad news and I got good news. I said, all right, Mike, give it to me. He goes, well, the bad news is I no longer need your services. I sold the company. I said, wow, congratulations, been working on this for a while. Sold the company, started in the early 80s, sold it in 2017. He said, Rick, the better news is I kept all the assets. He sold the name and the database and the employees. He kept all the assets. So to this day, I have not heard of that since. To this day, Mike still develops land, sold off his business, and spends as much time as possible at Robin's Nest. So if you do nothing else today, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to walk away from this program and just think, what is my core purpose? Why am I doing this? And how do I get there? As boring as data sounds, this is what it does for you. And before we end, I want to share one of my core purposes. These are my twins, Gracie and Everly. They were born 11 days ago. Oh. So, thank you very much. I thank you for your time. I am very humble that you spent time here today. I'll be available for questions. And remember, if you would like to get that